In a lab in Russia, a scientist thaws a scoop of ancient Siberian soil, ground that has stayed frozen solid for 46,000 years. Frozen since before the last ice age ended. Frozen since mammoths still walked the earth. And something in it begins to move. A worm. Alive. It has lain motionless in that ice for longer than all of recorded human history, and it just woke up. And it is about to break one of the most basic rules we thought governed every living thing.
Let that number really land. 46,000 years. When this worm last moved, the last ice age wasn't over. There were no cities, no writing, no farms. Woolly mammoths still roamed the north. The worm slept through all of it. The end of the ice age, the rise of agriculture, empires, the printing press, the moon landing. Every single thing that has ever happened in human history happened while this worm lay frozen in the dark. And then a scientist warmed it up, and it started having babies. A creature that normally lives for a month or two had just spent 46,000 years frozen and survived. Now, we call this surviving being frozen, but that phrase is doing something sneaky. It hides how strange this actually is. The worm did not endure 46,000 years the way you might endure a freezing night, shivering, holding on, waiting for morning. It did something far stranger than that. It stopped completely. And by the end of this, you'll see that this tiny worm has quietly solved a problem humans have chased for centuries. And in solving it, it exposes an uncomfortable truth about what actually kills the rest of us.
To understand what happened, you have to let go of the idea that there are only two states, alive and dead, because this worm entered a third one. When conditions turn deadly, certain creatures can shut themselves down. Their metabolism, every chemical reaction that keeps them running, drops to almost nothing, virtually undetectable. They stop eating, they stop growing, they stop aging, they use no oxygen. Nothing inside them moves. But they are not dead, because death is permanent, and this is not. It's a pause. Scientists call...
But here's the problem. Freezing should destroy a living thing. As water turns to ice inside a cell, it forms sharp crystals that tear the cell apart from the inside. Freeze a normal animal solid, and you don't preserve it, you shred it. So the worm prepares. Before it freezes, it floods its body with a special sugar called trehalose. It pushes much of the water out of its cells, and the sugar takes its place, turning the inside of each cell into a kind of glass where ice can't form and nothing can move. And in glass, chemistry stops. Molecules can't react. And this is the part that should genuinely stop you. During those 46,000 years, the worm did not age. Not by a day, not by an hour. A creature with a lifespan of a few weeks lived through 46 millennia. Because for all that time, its internal clock wasn't just slow, it was switched off. When there are no chemical reactions, there is no wear, no breakdown, no aging. There is, in a very real sense, no time passing at all. So when we say the worm survived, what we really mean is this, and that quietly shatters a rule we treat as absolute. Every living thing you have ever known runs on a one-way clock. You are born,
you age, and you die, and you cannot stop it. Aging feels as unavoidable as gravity. Time only moves forward, and eventually, it runs out. But this worm proved the rule has an exception. Life does not have to run continuously. The clock can be stopped. And then, when conditions are right again, it can be started back up, right where it left off, decades or millennia later, with nothing lost. Which forces a harder question. If time didn't age the worm, then we tend to assume that time is what kills us, that we simply run out of it. But this worm points to something more unsettling. It isn't the passage of time that wears you down. It's metabolism, the act of being alive itself. Every breath you take, every beat of your heart, every reaction that keeps you going also slowly damages you. To live is to burn fuel, and to burn fuel is to age. The clock that's counting down inside you isn't measuring time. It's measuring how much you've lived. And that is the worm's almost paradoxical secret. It survives by ceasing to live. It stops being alive precisely so that it cannot die. When metabolism hits zero, nothing ages it, because nothing is happening to it. And that is exactly why scientists are so fascinated by a worm barely a millimeter long. Because it has done, naturally and perfectly, the one thing we most want to do and can't: pause a life and resume it later, completely intact. If we could truly learn its trick, the sugar, the glass, the controlled shutdown, it could change everything. We could preserve donated organs not for hours, but indefinitely. We could put a body into true suspended animation for the centuries-long journey to another star. We might even pause a patient through a disease we can't yet cure and wake them in a future that can. The worm is holding open a door we have only ever dreamed of walking through. So picture it one more time. That worm in the ice for 46,000 years. Above it, the mammoths died out. The ice sheets melted and retreated. Humans learned to farm, to write, to build cities, to leave the planet. Whole worlds of history rose and fell over its head. And through every bit of it, the worm simply waited. Not sleeping, not dying, not aging. Just paused, held perfectly